Alicia Bromfield, and just settle in because this one is strange. So, Alicia was 21 and a student at Western Illinois University. She was just a few months away from graduating with her degree in forensic psychology, and she was 6.5 months pregnant with a baby girl whose father did not want to be in the picture, that she planned to name Ava Lucille. Alicia was incredibly excited to become a mother, even though the baby's father didn't want to be involved. So, like I said, she was just a couple of months, just one semester away from graduating, and she, through all this time, had been working the same job that she had since she was 16 years old in the garden department of Home Depot. She always wanted to be good at her job, so she worked really, really hard to do well at it. And all of that hard work didn't go unnoticed by her boss, a 36-year-old man named Brian Cooper. In fact, Alicia's best friend Olivia said he was very friendly, and when I met him, he actually gave me a job too. This apparently friendly supervisor seemed to take an instant liking to Alicia, with the two striking up a casual friendship, although Alicia's best friend Olivia is quick to point out that's all it was, just a friendship. And in fact, Alicia's mom thinks that the main reason that Alicia really hung out with this guy was self-preservation. She was very afraid of losing her job, especially with baby Ava coming. She knew that this job offered her time off in the winter with pay, and she was 21. She never had that before. Alicia would consistently tell her friends how badly Brian treated her at work. He would call her names like slut, and he would throw things at her. He would often force her to work at a moment's notice, making her miss important baby doctor's appointments. He used this managerial position to exert power and intimidate Alicia, all so that he could spend as much time as possible near her. According to several people, she reported the abuse to upper management, but nothing was ever done. Brian liked to tell his coworkers that Alicia was his girlfriend, but in reality, she had rejected his advances many times. Still, this guy would not take no for an answer. He continued to harass Alicia and tried to get her to go on a date with him. He even threatened to fire her if she did not accompany him to his sister's wedding as his date. I can't. No means no, dude. I cannot believe that this treatment of her happened and people saw it, and nobody ever did anything, and that is absolutely crazy to me. What do I know? Nothing. Alicia's mother, Sherry, was aware of Brian's constant unwarranted advances and his verbally abusive behavior towards her daughter, and she, when this wedding came up, she pleaded with Alicia not to go, and Alicia said, "Mom, I don't have a choice. He's gonna fire me." She said that Brian had agreed they would only be going as friends and nothing more, and that they would be coming back the next morning. Yes, I said coming back. This is an out-of-state wedding that he wants to take her to. I can't even, She asked her mom, how bad could it be? It was only 4 hours away, and they're staying at the same hotel as the rest of the entire wedding party, which Alicia did not know, so I don't know why that felt like a safety net. Regardless, they were going to Door County, Wisconsin. From Mackenzie is kind of a rural area up by Lake Michigan. Pretty popular for people who live in Chicago to go to. Just a couple of hours. You can rent a cabin, go fishing, and weddings. So, they were supposed to stay at the Sand Bay Beach Resort. So that brings us to August 18th, 2012. Brian and Alicia leave for this resort. Like I said, it was approximately a 4-hour drive. Shortly after they arrive, Alicia texts her mom and says that they're coming home early. She and Brian had gotten into a fight, and they just weren't going to stay for the wedding. She said the wedding party was not at the same hotel like Brian had claimed. A couple hours go by, and Alicia texts her mother again and says, "Oh, we decided to stay." But there weren't really any explanations as to why. Alicia was still fending off advances from Brian. She finally decided enough is enough. If he wants to fire me, then whatever. She tells him she'll go to the wedding as his date, but that there would be no friendship between them at all once they got back to Illinois. Brian just festers on this during this wedding. He gets absolutely just in a complete rage at the thought of losing Alicia's presence in his life, and he just could not handle it. He would later state in an interview that this was around the time that he started to have thoughts of hurting Alicia. When they returned to the hotel after the wedding, it was well past midnight, and all pregnant Alicia wanted to do was get some rest before they got up early to drive back home the next morning. As she got into bed, Brian asked her if she would watch a movie with him on the following Sunday night. So not only did she drive 4 hours out of state with him, they're sharing the same room. Ew, no. No, I'm not going. You can have my job, thank you. Get on out of here, creep. It get worse. Hold on. Anyway, so Brian asks her if she'd watch a movie, and Alicia stood firm. She was like, "No, I told you, when we get back to Illinois, we will not have a friendship." And it is at this moment that Brian snaps. He lunges at Alicia, who's laying on the bed. He straddles her. He puts his hands around her neck, and he starts to squeeze. Alicia, according to Brian, pled for her life. Not just her life, but of the baby's. But Brian didn't think of the baby. He drug Alicia from the bed onto the ground and continued to strangle her until she passed away. And in one final creepy, horrifying act, Brian decides that he wants to see what Alicia looks like naked. So he takes off all of her clothes and he rapes her. But as I researched this story, I come to find out this is not the first time Brian has seen Alicia naked. But she just didn't know about it. His abuse of her was far more severe than she ever even knew about. He would hide a camera in the bathroom of his home, and he would force her to come over, like to let his dogs out or, pick up things. And he would watch her using the bathroom. He even placed a camera in the garbage bin of the hotel so that he could watch her take a shower and coming out of the shower undressed. All of these videotapes were discovered after Brian turned himself over to the police. Anyway, after he killed Alicia, he placed a blanket over her body and a pillow under her head. He then slept in the bathtub. The next morning, he decided he couldn't live with himself, and he attempted to drown himself in the bay. But he wussed out and drove to a gas station. He walked gas station with his clothes soaking wet, walked to the clerk and asked for the phone to call 911. He told the dispatcher he wanted to report the murder of 21-year-old Alicia Bromfield. The 911 dispatcher asked, "Are you sure that a murder occurred?" Brian replied, "Yes." The dispatcher asks, "Well, do you know who murdered her?" And Brian said, "I did." "You did? Okay, was it an accident, or were you angry, or..." Brian Cooper replies, "It was intentional." Within minutes, authorities arrive on the scene, guns blazing, and they take Brian into custody. Once he was in the interrogation room, he provides every detail of Alicia's murder. He tells investigators that they were somewhat dating, but he wanted more. He respected her refusal because she was pregnant with another man's child. Dude, no you didn't. No you didn't. It was when she threatened to cut off all contact, he says, that he flew into this rage. He said that the reality was setting in, that there wouldn't even be a friendship when they got back, and he started thinking about harming her. And when he was asked if she fought back, he said she did. She was yelling about the baby and saying, "Don't do this to me." She even bit my finger. And that's when we rolled off the bed, and she landed where she's laying now. Brian also admitted to tying up an ex-girlfriend in the past because he couldn't get through to her and he just wanted to talk. Unfortunately, this woman never reported this incident, and Brian was never arrested or anything. Brian Cooper was charged with 2 counts of first-degree intentional homicide and third-degree sexual assault of a corpse. While he's being booked and his injuries are photographed across the state line in Illinois, a police officer goes to Alicia's mother, Sherry, and is tasked with delivering the devastating, that's where I was going with that, news. The man had tears in his eyes, and Sherry said that she knew in a second that Alicia was gone. She thought that the police officer was going to tell her that they had died in a car accident, but he said there's been a homicide, and Sherry couldn't believe it. She said, "My life changed forever that day, and I just couldn't believe it was true. He strangled her. He killed her. Instead of calling 911 to save even the baby, he assaulted her." Despite Brian Cooper's very detailed confession, he shockingly enters a plea of not guilty. So, 10 months later, Alicia's family is forced to face her killer in court. Brian's defense: voluntary intoxication. He stated he was too intoxicated to know the severity of his actions on that fateful night. Even though he is able to provide every single detail of the murder, 2 out of 10 jury members believed his defense, and the trial ended in a hung jury. What? Can you even believe that? Like, that is absolutely insane to me. This dude blatantly killed her, and you guys couldn't agree on it. Oh, our justice system. Alicia's mom was devastated and disgusted, just like me. She said she was so shocked when she walked out of the courtroom. As soon as they said hung jury, she was even more shocked because all of the jurors were women. For 2 women to say that he was not guilty because they felt like he was intoxicated after hearing all of that evidence was mind-boggling, she said. The Door County Sheriff's investigator said it was just a punch in the gut. To him, this case was a slam dunk. They had a crime, they had a defendant who admitted, they had evidence that matched his confession, and the confession was videotaped, and the jury watched that tape. But those 2 jurors believed his voluntary intoxication defense. Sherry decided that she would not let what happened to her daughter happen to another innocent victim, and along with Alicia's friends, they started lobbying to have voluntary intoxication removed from the list of legally acceptable defenses. They made history when it was banished as a defense in Wisconsin and 31 other states. This was an enormous victory for them. Unfortunately, Brian was able to use voluntary intoxication as a defense again in the second trial, a year later, since it was grandfathered in. But this time, the jury did not buy it, and within 1 hour of deliberation, it was found guilty 2 counts of first-degree intentional homicide for the murders of Alicia and baby Ava. On July 24th, 2014, he was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms. Shortly afterwards, Alicia's parents, Sherry and Joe, created what they call the Purple Project. It's an organization that helps financially support single mothers in need and provides grief counseling and retreats for parents who are mourning the loss of a child. I found one more thing I would like to read to you because it was quite powerful for me. It is the eulogy for Alicia Bromfield, written by her mom, Sherry. And I might cry. So just, somebody said something about me crying the other day, and I was like, dude, I'm a human, and these cases affect me. If you can sit here and watch these cases without being affected in any way, then maybe you should go watch something else. Just saying. Anyway, it reads, "My precious baby girl, I should have known life wouldn't be easy when you were born on August 28th, 1990. When the Plainfield tornadoes were touching down, I was giving birth to you. Even though I was a single mother and scared, taking care of you and loving you was so easy. You were like my tiny little baby doll. I used to put 10 outfits on you every day and take pictures. You were my little buddy. We did everything together. For the first time in my life, I knew what unconditional love was. You were a fighter, and when you were 1 week old, you contracted meningitis, and I was so scared I was going to lose you. But you fought through the illness, and I was able to bring you home after 3 weeks in the hospital. That is when our life together began. You were such a kind, compassionate, loving woman. Your love for your brothers, sister, and family was so evident. We had so many firsts together. When you were a baby, I remember doing everything together. We were inseparable. You were obsessed with music boxes, and I had so many people that helped raise you. You have a big extended family. As a toddler, I remembered you loved Barney, Alice in Wonderland, and The Lion King. I would often find you lying on the floor, 2 inches from the TV, sucking your thumb. As a child, you made friends so easy. When you were 8 and Joe and I married, you were so happy. A few years later, your brother was born, and that was an adjustment. As a teen, you became, let's say, a strong-willed woman. You never followed the crowd. You were your own person. This period of time was one of the most difficult because you lost your grandmother. She was your everything, and when you died, she was devastated. As a young woman, you were so happy to go to college, and I was so proud of you. It was difficult for us to drop you off, but the joy in your face helped comfort me. You were ready for the independence, and you created a future for yourself. When you told me you were pregnant, I was scared for you because I knew how hard it was going to be. But God spoke to me and told me that this was going to be the greatest blessing of your life and mine. As I contemplate why God told me that, I am reminded of all the time you were spending at home talking and laughing. You seemed so happy about becoming a mother. I was so proud of the way you ate well and went to bed early and the love you already had for Ava. I asked God why you couldn't have left me my granddaughter so I could have a part of you. You loved her so much and you needed to have her with you. There are no words to express how much I miss you and how much I will love you for the rest of my life. That just completely devastated me when I wrote it because I have seen my mother's loss of my brother. lost my brother, she still, obviously, it never goes away. I don't even have words to describe it. The only thing that I can think of that even makes sense is the loss of a child is so painful that there's not even a word to describe it. If you lose your parents, you're an orphan. There's no word for what happens when you lose a child, because it's that painful and no one wants to give it a name. And I just think about my mama and my brother, and then to lose like the baby with her, I can't even get my head around it. So I was absolutely furious that people at Home Depot had seen this man's mistreatment of this little girl. She was 21, but whatever, she was little. And nobody did anything. Like, people said they saw him do this to her, and no one did anything. That doesn't make any sense to me. If I saw my coworker being treated that way, I would have done something. But I guess not all people are as brave as me to stand up for other people when you know it's right. Regardless of keeping my job, regardless of whatever is going to be done to me, I'm not going to let people be mistreated in front of me. I'm not going to do it, and I'm also not going to let myself be mistreated. This has been a problem in my life. Sometimes I just say things. I don't have a filter for the consequences, but I don't allow mistreatment. I'm not going to do it. It's just not. And that comes from my very strong-willed mother, who taught me not to be subject to those things. Anyway, if you need a little oomph, I'm here to give it to you, let me tell you. I'm gonna stop for now because I can hear that my neighbors are cutting their grass. Hopefully you cannot hear that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please tell me if you've heard of this case